Hey guys, welcome to the Lean to the Left podcast, where we focus on progressive politics and the key social issues of our time, not the least of which is our environment and how politics often gets in the way of solutions. Today, I'm thrilled to bring you Babette Hogan and Julie Eisenberg, who directed and produced the new documentary film Running for the Mountains. Transcending party lines, this compelling documentary exposes the cautionary tale of the rough and tumble politics and reckless policies that dominate West Virginia, now being exported to the rest of the nation. The filmmakers' 15-year investigation unveils the ties between extractive industries and West Virginia's politicians who place their personal profit over the health and well-being of their constituents by subjecting their state to deadly toxic air, water, and land. Sounds eerily familiar to what's happening now on the national scene under the Trump administration. Running for the Mountains questions West Virginia's saga of patriotic sacrifice while delivering surprising undercover scenes that make clear who these politicians are really serving and who pays the cost of these devastating priorities. The policies of this one deregulated state affect us all. Both Babette and Julie have worked for more than 30 years in film, video production, and photography. Their credentials are impeccable. Thanks to both of you for being with us today on the Lean to the Left podcast. Now, you guys are from California. I want to know why it is that you did a film about West Virginia.
First, I want to say Julie's originally from the East Coast. She's moved to California.
Okay.
But I am eighth generation San Franciscan, and I grew up in a beautiful place with a beautiful mountain, and where environmentalism was just the general ethos, being concerned about the environment, being concerned about water. It was natural for us. And I would say that both Julie and I are political wonks. We just can't get enough. So that kind of both drove us into this corner where we landed in West Virginia.
Okay. Did you have any reservations about taking on the powerful industries involved in West Virginia's political players?
Speaking for myself, I sure did. And yeah, that wasn't how we entered the film. We wanted to make a film, and we started around 2008, which was about politics and the environment. But it started out as something a little less heavy and more ironic about how back then, if everything is green, what are different political campaigns and politicians doing, and who's really walking the walk? And through that process, and during 2008, we traveled to 3 different political conventions. That year, we ended up meeting someone who was running in West Virginia on a third-party platform that emphasized the environment. Because in West Virginia, we found that both the Democrats and the Republicans were heavily entrenched in industry there, and saying it was because of jobs and heritage. So this third party had arisen there called the Mountain Party. And this candidate was using his run for governor as a way to elevate that on his platform and get the subject of mountaintop removal, physically blowing up the mountains with dynamite to get to the goal. He was using that political platform. And we were very interested in something we called electoral activism, which now we see a lot more, but we weren't seeing so much of then. The act of actually having the guts to run for office, to bring an issue that you care about to the fore, whether it be like gun control or environment. We were super interested in that connection. That's what got us there. And yes, once we realized we were in a deep issue and starting to expose what was going on with coal industry and politics, with natural gas and on, I was scared.
Yeah,
and
I bet you were.
I come from a family of lawyers, and they all said to me, "You better get a lawyer."
Oh, yeah. Did
we
you?
Were yes, of course.
That's on the legal perspective, but I think for me, having felt safe as a journalist in California, never talking easily with cops in rally situations, I just came from such a different place. And I was slow, frankly, to become aware of possible dangers. Of course, getting arrested helped.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that. I know you got arrested. What was it, 2012, right? What happened?
Yeah, I was actually traveling in a car and we got pulled off the road because the police there were trying to manage some traffic and parking of large vehicles. And what I was seeing was interesting enough that I raised my camera and started recording.
Uh-oh.
And then a person dressed in a union shirt signaled the cop to take some sort of action, and it was very evident that they were coming after my camera.
Okay.
That's the first thing they want. They want journalists out of there. They don't want journalists to be recording what's going on.
Okay, but this didn't have anything to do with your film, really. They didn't do this because of your film.
As far as I know, they didn't
Yeah.
know who they were arresting.
Right, I got it.
And to that point, by the end of the arrest, the arresting officer was so confused by all the things that went on. It's a whole nother story. He looked at me as if he realized he had just arrested his mother.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was like, "You're going to write about me, aren't you?" I said, "Probably."
Wanted to ask you, since you got arrested, and I guess I assumed that it had something to do with the film itself. Did you guys have any pushback that resulted in you being threatened or fearful of your safety because of the film?
I would say we witnessed, I think that Babette in filming, it wasn't that they knew we were making this film Running for the Mountains, so they were trying to quash that. I think it's just in general, any evidence of what's going on in terms of mining or violations or taking off protesters. That's what they were arresting Babette about, the fact that she was filming, period, not the fact that she was filming a movie that they knew about. So
I understand.
that's to clarify that. So I think when we were on the ground in West Virginia, we managed to navigate it, not counting, of course, very traumatic, pretty well. But I think overall, the people we were following in our film and dealing with, the activists, all had incidents of death threats, different bullet holes in their door, things done that were very intimidating. So we didn't feel the threat as much personally because we did not live there.
Okay.
But we knew that politics were very serious there and people didn't play around.
Right.
We learned that more and more.
You guys worked on this thing for 15 years, right?
Mm.
What took so long?
We were looking for a happy ending.
Oh, yeah?
And it just kept not coming. So, in fact, as Manchin ascended into the Senate and then gained more control, including of the Committee for Energy, this became a new vehicle for us to explain the story that we were already trying to explain. He helped us in that way.
He helped you?
By demonstrating how those politics work, the pay to play.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah, I think also we'll say COVID definitely set us back a couple of years in terms of all of a sudden everything came to a halt and we were like, how do we finish a movie? And that actually had an interesting impact because we really did want to be inclusive of having people from West Virginia not only be subjects in our film, but also, and especially by the end, help us in terms of the filmmaking process and the shooting process of it. And that definitely, by not being able to travel around, gave us the opportunity to have other people as our crew grew and we knew and started to trust people on the ground to wrap them into our production. And that was really something that I give credit to Babette early on, saying, we're not going to be like a lot of crews who come in, parachute in, get their shots, get their interviews, and then they're gone. And we heard over and over again from people on the ground in West Virginia when we would come back. And then again, we'd come back. And then 2 years later, a year later, we'd come back. And we did become like family. And they did say, you guys are really coming back. And you really do care.
That's very cool. Okay. Now, your documentary discusses the theme of patriotism. Do you see patriotism as a factor nationally in Trump's attack on the environment?
It is, yeah, absolutely. I think that what we see is a boom, the gold rush, right? The boom bust cycle being
Right.
reintroduced again. And at those times, here he's willing to sell off our federal lands. He's willing to deregulate everything, putting us all across the nation into a very vulnerable situation with our water supply. And it can be presented as we have to get ahead of the Chinese, and this is all going to serve you ultimately. But that's not how it actually will pan out unless we can have regulations that control this process in this new age of AI that we seem determined to plow into without any regard.
But indeed, we really did, in the course of making our film, we were told by the people there, the people that we really focused on, which were four people that we really followed. And a lot of things we started to learn about the West Virginia character in particular was about pride and patriotism. But the way that was completely braided into discussion of their role as providing the natural resources and sacrificing their land to power the country. And so in that way, a state that was very poor and less educated and really always felt on the bottom, in the way that they would always say, thank God for Mississippi, that attitude, their culture there could be boosted and buoyed by saying, you guys are powering the country and this is your role and that's your patriotic duty. And in addition, West Virginia always gives up their people to fight wars. And that may be, in fact, because there's a lack of opportunity. And so going into the military is a way to get out of the state and get skills and make a living. But they're in this position of always sacrificing, giving. And so we noticed that and we wanted to address that and also find a way to bring that into a discussion about a form of patriotism that we were witnessing in our subjects that was about standing up for their land, for their environment, for their communities, and pointing out how sick this was making them.
Yeah. Okay. Now, you mentioned Manchin a minute ago, and so I was wondering, he gained a hell of a lot of power as he became a senator and then ran the Energy Committee, and he had power over Biden's agenda as he tried to push renewable energy. Now, how did his rise impact what's happening in West Virginia today and what's happening nationally, in your opinion?
We were on the ground and filmed, and that was when we talk about undercover moments. That was one of the undercover moments when Babette was at his victory party when he went into the US Senate. And from then, part of our film launched into being two-pronged of being on the ground in West Virginia and DC. And his stance that he had to advocate to preserve and still prop up coal and really be that roadblock against Biden when Biden had presented the infrastructure plan and then also Build Back Better. Manchin put himself in the middle of that because he was a swing vote. The Senate was so easily divided.
Right. And
it was Manchin and Sinema, but Manchin was the one who was super invested in and being in the Energy Committee and having his way to really slow walk those changes to renewables. And in fact, remember, he had the Build Back Better renamed the Inflation Reduction Act, and he put his stamp on it. And he did a lot of horse trading with the Biden administration to get things he wanted, which were like fast track permitting, still allowing coal, a lot of things that really stripped out a lot of that Inflation Reduction Act. Not that it didn't do a lot of good, it did. But now, of course, we see the Trump administration very quickly trying to undo as much of that as they can.
Oh, yeah. And still doing it. All right.
Daily.
What'd you say?
Daily. I just read an article today that they've rolled back the levels of soot allowed in the atmosphere. And that was just 4 days ago. And that impacts everywhere.
Yeah, it does. Absolutely, it does. And it's just all greed. It's just all about greed, in my opinion.
There's no reason why we can't slow down as a society a little bit and take a proper view of what's going on.
Yeah, for sure. Hopefully your film should help. Hopefully people will see it. Now, one of your subjects describes West Virginia as a sacrifice zone and ground zero for climate change. What are your thoughts about that? Who was that subject, by the way?
Well, immediately I can say that was Jesse Johnson. Jesse Johnson is the person who ran for governor.
Okay.
He ran more times against Senator Manchin than anybody else.
Okay.
Trying to bring his message. And there's so much of his story that we don't see. Sadly, he fell victim to cancer, a very unusual cancer, which West Virginia has
a lot of.
While cancer has been decreasing nationally, it is increasing in West Virginia.
Okay.
So it's very common. And in fact, whereas in San Francisco, we have AI billboards everywhere, in West Virginia, they have cancer hospital billboards everywhere. And then that says something.
That's amazing.
Yeah, Jesse was the one who said that. He was the inspiration and the driver of getting our film to really center on West Virginia, and he fought to the bitter end. And yeah, we were happy that he got to be with us at some of the film festivals, which he completely relished. But yeah, he passed away in April, so yeah, we ended up dedicating the film to him and the other people fighting in West Virginia.
That's great.
Yeah,
I saw the trailer of your film, and it opens with these beautiful scenes of the environment of rivers, creeks, mountains. And it reminded me of when I was much younger and I did some whitewater canoeing and whitewater rafting in West Virginia. And I just thought the whole place was so gorgeous. And the thought of all of that being destroyed for the sake of coal and other kinds of fossil fuels is just disgusting. And you mentioned a minute ago about how mountains have been just blown away, all in the quest for coal, correct?
There's that, but I would say let's focus a little bit on the water, because that's what's making. So West Virginia is resource rich. It's one of the richest resource states of our nation.
Yeah.
Water is one of the most essential ones, and it's made it very attractive. Chemical companies who use it for washing their stuff. It's made it very advantageous in fracking. It's made it very advantageous in coal mining. And that is perhaps the most dangerous thing, because most people in West Virginia rely on well water. It's a very rural state.
Sure.
And so I hope we can broaden this beyond the idea of coal, because that kind of like puts it in a box, and people I've heard so much about coal. It's really about water. And our waterways nationally are affected by the deregulation that is instigated in West Virginia.
Okay. And it's that water that is carrying a lot of the pollutants that's causing this cancer uptick in West Virginia, correct?
Correct. Yes, that is the belief. And then that water is going all the way down the Ohio River, all the way down to the Gulf, and the other direction out to Chesapeake and to Pittsburgh. So that water is going places.
Yeah, and the air as well. And I think you started a question back earlier of when Jesse had said West Virginia is ground zero for climate change. And that is about all the CO2 going up into the atmosphere, or methane from fracking, which when he said that comment hadn't even started to peak. But
so there's concerns about a pipeline too.
Yeah. The original pipeline was going to go through some more wealthy areas, is how the people in the country would say it. Like the straighter line would have been a different route. It would have just taken it through more well-funded places. Instead, they took it through rural counties and through the farms, many of which are organic or were organic, and cut right through people's property using eminent domain. For what? Most of this gas is being exported. So how are we serving ourselves? How are we serving our own country by doing this to ourselves? We're not.
Very good point. Now, your trailer closes with the line, pay attention or pay the price. Explain what that means.
We think that people have probably not been seeing what is going on with the regulation. And it's easy to turn a blind eye to a rural state like West Virginia, a small state, who notices it. But in fact, they have 2 senators. Those 2 senators control a lot of what goes on throughout our entire nation. And if we're not paying attention to what these small states are doing that are resource rich, but perhaps have very little population, they're asserting a great deal of control over our federal laws. So that's...
You could also say it means watch our movie.
Okay. How can people see this film?
Where our film had been touring around at various film festivals, but now happily, which isn't always the case for a lot of independent films, we did get a distributor, First Run Films.
Okay.
That's a great established with a track record distributor, and they've got us on Amazon Prime.
Okay.
And so for only $2.99, you could see our film. And additionally, if you're like a university student or you even have a library card, you can go to your local library and see if they have it as well. So it's really
through the site Canopy with a K.
right.
Okay. But you can just go on Amazon and get it, right?
Correct.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And how much does it cost to watch it?
$1.99 for SD standard definition and $2.99 for high definition.
So
Well,
I mean,
pretty
it really
cool.
was our goal not to go into this film for a big money-making enterprise. It really was about what Babette and I viewed as our patriotic duty and our way to really help raise awareness. So we're delighted that it's so accessible.
Okay. So what you guys spent a ton of time on this thing. You spent 15 years working on it. You've got it out. You've had a lot of reaction and you've been doing a lot of work to promote it. How has it affected you personally, all this work?
I will say it came at a cost. It did come at a personal cost and it came at a financial cost, which is fine.
Okay.
How did it change me? I think I'm more radicalized than I was to begin with because of the boots on the ground.
Something tells me you're pretty radical to start with, right? It depends whose definition of the word radical.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I've been a linguist. I've been a journalist. I believe that the power of words and imagery can sway. It was a way originally for me to get back into my work because I had taken time off to raise my child to a certain age, to 8 years old. And then it's like looking around, I better get back into the swing of things. So it was a great way for me to express my feelings and extend my vision and get back into the practice of videography.
Okay. Now, Julie, how about you? What's your take on that?
I would agree with that. It was definitely a labor of love, not always easy. I think we definitely aged along the way, and I personally did not expect politics and the direction of our country to go the way it has,
Right.
where the people in power are more like what we saw in West Virginia, and we made our film more as a cautionary tale.
Yeah.
So it is a little alarming. We were on the ground during the election in 2016 in West Virginia between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. And Donald Trump had really made an impact in West Virginia. Right. And people there said they saw it coming. And I was dubious and said, there's no way he's going to be the president. There's just no way. And then to be there. And on that night, we were in the West Virginia Republican Party's party in Charleston when it was announced. And it really did blow me away. So there's been a lot of eye-opening that I saw, and that's sometimes hard to carry, but I'm glad that we're doing our part.
Yeah, I should hope so. All right, so what do you guys have cooked up for the future?
I was just talking to a candidate for governor in Nevada.
Oh yeah.
And I'm excited about her I'm hoping that I can help her out. So
Oh, that
that's,
sounds good.
yeah.
What about you, Julie? What are you going to be up to?
One thing I know, and a lot of people do want to know what's next. One thing I know is considering several things, but I want to choose very carefully because 15 years is a long time. So
Sure.
whatever I choose, it's going to have a beginning, a middle, and an end. And I'm going to know it's going to be contained. And
That's probably a good plan.
Ride. And I hope something a little lighter and maybe more personal, but we'll see.
Okay.
So
All
stay
right.
tuned.
Okay. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we close up?
Thank you for doing what you do
Oh,
and
thank you very much.
for taking us on.
Thank you.
I think
love,
also, I was going to say thank you for helping to encourage conversation and some helping people feel like they still can jump in and make change in whatever way they can.
Thank you. I feel that's very important. And in my retirement, this is what I chose to do, to try to make a little bit of a difference. So anyway, thank you guys. I really enjoyed talking to you. Found it fascinating. And I wish you guys the best with your film. I really do.
Thanks so much.